Have you recently moved to Marion County and are looking for locally grown beef? Well, today I'm interviewing Jacob Van Wagner, and they have some really cool cuts of beef and different types of variety of cattle that they grow. So let's dive in and hear his story about how this farm has been here locally for 55 years. All right, Jacob, so tell us a little bit about the history of this farm and how your family, got started into doing this industry.
All right, so it all started with my grandfather Earl and his wife Teresa, that's my grandma Cook. They started the farm up in Massachusetts about 60 years ago. Decided it was too cold, then bought a property down here and started a dairy down here. That means we've been here for 50 years now. I'm third generation. They started with a dairy. We switched from dairy in 2006 to beef because, there wasn't enough money in dairy, so we went to beef. And now we raise Belgium Blue, Wagyu, and all sorts of other cattle that are hybrids of the two. We raise Brahma, all sorts, Akaushi, and we sell the beef at our little store here on the farm, and we sell live cattle to the people that are in the nearby community.
Okay, so you guys, can people buy like a full cow from you?
Yep, they can buy, we have everything ranging from individual cuts priced by the pound to live cattle and anywhere in between. If it's, as my dad says, if it's the right price, we'll sell it.
Okay.
So,
so it always, I guess that does work, I suppose. I know a lot of times I have people, when I was a kid, we used to go to the local fair. And we would buy like a whole cow at auction from the kids that were showing.
Yeah, we do quarters, halves, whole sides of beef too. So we have a whole web page set up for that as well.
Okay, awesome. Do you guys sell anything else here?
Well, we sell chicken eggs from our neighbors. We're going to get our own chickens at some point. We have olive oil that's grown up in Alachua County that we sell in the store. We have our own tallow. I don't know if I said that already, but I render my own tallow and we sell it at the store. We also sell cheese from Hawthorne Creek Creamery, which is 30 minutes north of here. And what else do we sell? Really, it depends on what's in season because sometimes we have vegetables in the store. Like one time I put radishes from my garden in the store. Sometimes I have carrots. We have vegetables, beef, eggs, everything that you can think of, really.
No, and I think having places like this are really important to help, deal with food deserts in a way too. I don't know if you're familiar with food deserts, but
I know that there's some up north, that's
yeah,
for sure.
we have them here. Actually, I would say this part of Marion County probably is one because there's not a Walmart or a Dollar General or a lot of things that you can buy, fresh meat, fresh fruits, things like that. And so, having these small farms kind of helps because if you have, there's all kinds of people living out here, from all different economic statuses. And if they can't get access to fresh food, then that hurts them. It hurts their children, and it can be a big problem. So I really am thankful that here in Marion County we do have a lot of small. You guys have a big operation, but varying in size. Of people who are growing food in all kinds of different shapes and forms, whether it's animals or vegetables, or I saw honey on there. Do you guys have your own honey?
Actually, that honey comes from people that grow their vegetables and fruit gardens. They have it grown in our compost, so it's kind of organic honey. It's not certified organic, but it's grown with organic stuff.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I really like that honey. It tastes like a field when you have it. It's got a kind of dry flavor, and I know that sounds strange for a honey, but once you have it, you'll know it tastes like a hay field in the summer.
Interesting.
It's delicious.
Yeah, no, that does sound really good. I know there's like all kinds of honey that can be made or produced from bees. Like there's a place over in Oxford that has blackberry honey, and it actually tastes like blackberries because they have a blackberry farm.
That sounds delicious too.
It was absolutely phenomenal, and they recommended that you put it in your coffee, and it was really good.
I've never had honey in my coffee though.
I know, me either, until they recommended it, and then I was like, okay. I don't know if I'd put regular honey, but I guess because of the blackberry, something with the flavor of it.
Yeah, maybe if it's not as sweet, it'll be like the honey that we have. That might go well on some coffee.
I could see that too.
I'll have to try it.
You'll have to try it and let me know how it goes. So now you said that I know you guys sell beef, and do you guys sell any other type of animal meat outside of beef?
We do sell lamb. Sometimes we're going to have more lamb in about 3 months or so because we have a whole new flock of little lambs running around right now.
I know, I hear them.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is that our lamb meat is different. It's kind of like our cow meat. It's like the beef that we have. They are free range, free choice, which means that they get full-time access to the pasture, the 24 hours a day. And they also get full-time access to a ration that is based on potatoes. So it's a potato-based ration, but also a lot of grass in there too.
That's interesting.
And it makes the lamb flavor a lot more neutral.
Mm.
It doesn't have what people call the weird sheep taste. It's very tender, very delicate, delicious. That's why we don't have any more. We're
That
out of
sounds
stock.
well, yeah, I mean, things go in cycles.
Yeah.
Growing. I don't think people are so disconnected from their food that they don't even realize like how things go. Like with egg prices, I like people are complaining about egg prices and this, that, or whatever, and I'm like, you do realize, like, regardless of whatever the case is, they killed a ton of chickens, and it takes 6 to 8 months for us to replenish that chicken stock.
Very true. Yeah, it takes time. That's what agriculture is. A lot of the time when you're paying that extra price, like say it's Wagyu beef or say it's chicken eggs right now, you're paying for time. That's the fact of the matter. Because it takes, for a Wagyu animal, it takes at a minimum 3 years for it to develop good marbling.
Wow.
So we're not harvesting it at like the 18 or 24 month range that you would like a Belgian Blue or an Angus. Wagyu takes longer, which is why that's more expensive than other meats.
Okay, interesting. I don't know a ton about cows. Like I know like some things about them, but I don't really know much about like each individual breed and like how like different the meat can be. So, can you like tell us a little bit about like I know you guys do a lot of different cattle. How would you like categorize like each one, like maybe in flavor, marbling, whatever the case may be?
That's a good question. That's what I explain to pretty much everyone that comes into the store. We have Belgian Blue on one side, ultra tender, but ultra lean. There's virtually no fat.
Hmm.
And the reason why it's tender is because it has a double myostatin inhibitor gene. Myostatin is what prevents muscles from continuing to grow.
Okay.
So the myostatin inhibitor gene makes it so it inhibits that trait and the muscles grow very big. They have a whole bunch of fibers in them, and those fibers are minuscule, which makes cutting it very easy. That's all technical terminology for very lean, tender meat. Then on the Wagyu side, you have ultra marbled, ultra tender, probably because of the marbling, but also because of genetic attributes. I don't know which one I prefer more. They're both good. I like Wagyu for special occasions because it's a richer cut. You can't really eat a whole bunch of it at once. You can't eat it all the time because it's very rich. Whereas Belgian Blue is my go-to daily intake of protein. And both are delicious, but I'm gonna have to go with the Belgian Blue in this case just because I eat more of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Wagyu is it's very fatty, so it is rich, like you're saying, rich, kind of greasy. Like it definitely, especially if it's raised right, will coat your mouth, like in that
Yeah.
like beefy, tallowy taste.
Yeah. As I said, really good for special occasions, but you can only eat so much of it.
So now I wanted to ask, what really makes your farm's beef different from, most places? I know most consumers don't really understand the difference between, farm raised beef versus what they get at the store.
Okay, there's actually two main things. There's the genetic component. All of our cows are artificially bred, meaning that we have selection of whatever genetics we want to use. If we want more tenderness or more marbling in our meat, we just choose the bulls that have that, put that in our cows, they have the calves, and then we put the calves in the store eventually. As far as the other component, definitely the diet. A potato-based ration gives the fat a whiter look. It gives it a more neutral flavor. And having access to a ration a lot of the time makes it so there's not quite as much of that grass-fed tang to it, or grass-fed, I guess it would be gamey flavor. So it's a neutral flavored type of fat, but because the animal was healthy its whole life, that had access to whatever it wanted, it shows in the meat. It's just absolutely, I'm biased, but it's delicious.
The potato sounds very interesting. I know a lot of times people do, organic something else, or, they come up with different ways to feed the
Yeah,
cows,
like,
but I don't know if I've ever really heard of the potato. Is that a common thing, or
no, it's
no?
not, it's not common. And the thing is there's all this flack that cows get for harming the environment with their natural bodily functions. But on our farm, we use a lot of byproducts, meaning we have the potato byproduct from Frito-Lay, we have brewer's grain, which is a byproduct from the distilling process. We have distiller's grain, which is from, I think, hard alcohol processing. But by feeding the cows all that, that stuff isn't going to a landfill somewhere and generating CO2 or whatever emissions those make. The cows are the cows are eating it, and they're kind of neutralizing that by producing something while generating emissions. There's no waste.
No, I think that is really spot on and super true. I think we really should be advocating more for local farms or even the bigger farms to find other sources outside of corn and soy to feed their cattle. I mean, we have so much waste here in the US when it comes to food waste. You're telling me there's no way in the modern age of science that we can't come up with a way, to
Yeah,
use that stuff and to regenerate, to keep
yeah.
it going?
I've done some research about the gas emissions from food waste versus the gas emissions from cows. The gas emissions from food waste in the United States far surpasses that than the emissions of cows throughout the whole world. Meaning that all the cow farts from around the world are way less than the food waste in the United States.
No, I 100% believe that. I mean, we just use and abuse food so much here in the US. Even everybody does. Like, I mean, we just don't live in a world now where people value or have the space to do composting or,
Yep.
all of the above. And there was somewhere, I want to say down south, that started collecting food waste, and they were ended up like doing something to it to end up giving it to making compost and then giving it to local gardens and things like that.
That's definitely a good idea.
Yeah, and it definitely is, and I wish we would do more of it or come up with other ways to do it. Because corn and soy, for one, corn is so difficult to grow because it takes a lot of fertilizer.
Yeah.
It's not a very friendly crop, a lot of spray. Like, it's just not an easy crop to grow.
No, it's
I
not.
don't think soybeans, I don't know as much about them, but I don't think soybeans are as easy to grow either. I think they're easier, but still have their own issues. And I'm like, why don't we just get creative here and make it work? I guess
Yep.
there's not enough money in that for somebody, but that's just
Very true.
how it goes. But I think that's awesome that you guys have that way of doing it. Now, I'm just curious, how do you guys get that?
Well, my dad, I think he has a contract with Frito-Lay
Yeah,
that
I knew that. Yeah.
he's had that for a long time, kind of grandfathered in. And as far as the other stuff, I think it's a company that just collects the byproduct, and we
Oh,
just
okay.
purchase it from them.
So it's kind of like what I was talking about, like the person that was like taking all the food
Yeah,
scraps from local restaurants and then, converting that into compost and then selling that to.
exactly.
Okay, so similar kind of thing. Those middle people are pretty important, I think, to like the ecosystem of food as well.
Definitely.
I don't think they get enough clout as what they really should, because I mean, it allows you guys to keep doing what you do at a semi-affordable rate, and also, it helps everybody else deal with food waste and things like that. So I know you said you guys have some interesting things coming soon. You guys are going to be going into ducks.
We're gonna go into some ducks, have some duck eggs. Then we're always working on the genetics of our cows. Like I was already talking about the Wagyu and the Belgian Blue. Right now we're working on a breed that incorporates the Belgian Blue's double myostatin inhibitor genes into the Wagyu breed.
Okay.
So it's going to be Wagyus with ultra fine muscle sinews or muscle fibers. There we go.
Okay.
Ultra fine muscle fibers and ultra fine marbling. So that's what we're aiming at right now. We're about halfway there. It's like I think it was like a 12 to 16 year project.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we're getting there. We're speeding up the process a little bit with embryo transfers because we're able to get a lot more on the ground more quickly that way. And we're able to select the ones that have the myostatin instead of the ones that don't have myostatin.
Okay, interesting. I feel like Wagyu has become like pretty trendy in a sense, and I feel like you guys have an ability to like make extra money and like unique beef. Is that like
Yep,
a big market that's been growing?
definitely. But you know what's interesting about that is people come for the Wagyu beef, but when they try the Belgian Blue, they're like, this is really good. They come back for the Belgian Blue beef. I always say the Wagyu gets them in the store, but then they come back for the Belgian Blue.
That's pretty cool. I don't know. Is Belgian blue a pretty common like breed of cow for people to raise, or no?
Not particularly. In Florida, it seems like Angus and Brangus are the main ones. Wagyu is getting more popular. Marketing for Wagyu is fantastic. Belgian Blue, you can see in cow shows and
Okay.
whatnot. But for a beef breed, not so much because they require a little bit more care. They have the myostatin gene, so you can't really have them running out in a herd. If you have them out running in a herd, the myostatin animals breed with the other myostatin animals, get double myostatin, and then you have a hard birth.
Okay.
So here we can monitor that more easily because it's all AI, artificial insemination.
Okay, that's interesting. So are they like a more needy breed in a way?
Not really.
No?
They're really docile.
Okay.
They're more needy in the respect that you need to really watch it when they're calving,
Mm.
because if there's a double milestone animal having a calf, she might have difficulty, and definitely going to have difficulty if an animal's going to have a double myostatin calf out of a
Okay.
double myostatin cow.
All of those breed of cow have that gene or no?
It can be bred into them.
Okay.
The myostatin gene can be bred into them. One copy is really good to have in cattle if you can manage it.
Okay.
It's when they're out running free and there's no management that becomes a difficulty.
Okay, so that's something that like naturally happens in that breed of cow.
Yep, and
Okay.
actually that gene is found in all sorts of breeds of animal, meaning that you have it in chickens, you can have it in, I think you definitely have it in sheep. I don't know about ducks and whatnot, but chickens, sheep, cows, they all definitely have it. People even have it too. They don't really breed for it because they're people, but people that have that gene build muscles really easily.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I really, like I said, I don't know a ton about. I know breeding cattle and dealing with all of that can be relatively extensive and complicated, and definitely not something. I don't think it's as easy as what most people think. Like they just think you just put some cows out there and you let them do your thing, which
Well,
I guess to an extent you
some
do.
some people, that's all they do. Like
Yeah.
for Brangus herds, they just run the cows out there with a few bulls. It's low maintenance. They're hardy animals. Then after every year they just collect the calves and just bring it to the market. And then they enter the whole food system.
I feel like it definitely lowers the quality. I don't know, it doesn't really necessarily lower the quality, but I will say I've had like true grass-fed only beef. And to me, it's not that great.
It is, it's like eating a wild animal versus one that's had a good life.
But even like I grew up like going hunting or whatever, eating deer and stuff, and even that is like different than grass-fed beef. I don't know what about it. It can be much gamier
Yeah,
and much more like in your face flavor,
definitely, definitely.
which is kind of interesting. I
Yeah.
think most people wouldn't think that, but it
Yeah,
is.
when you have grass fed, the fat is definitely yellower too. It's whenever you have an animal eating grass, it puts more stress on the system than if they have full-time access to food. So that's why it gets more of the gamey flavor.
Okay, yeah, because I guess they're stressed. They're not.
It's not so much as them being stressed as it is more worked.
So I know you guys have been here. You said now for 50 years, right?
Yes, I think 55 years in this specific location, and then they were doing the dairy 10 years or so before that.
Okay, I know this area had a lot of dairies. My wife's family's generationally from Ocala, and her uncle's family, they had a dairy. He still owns the property, but he doesn't. They don't have the dairy. That closed a long time ago, and
Yeah.
now he just raises steers for show for kids. That's what he does.
I think that the closest dairy now is in Hawthorne, which is where we get
Okay,
our cheese from, the raw milk cow's cheese.
okay,
Hawthorne Creek Creamery. All the other dairies in Marion County, I think, are gone.
wow, yeah,
I think that's what I've heard at least.
yeah. I don't really think. I mean, there's just not that much money in it, and people less and less people are drinking. Are drinking milk, and
Are they? I really don't know because I don't drink milk myself. I just drink water. Milk can be good for cooking though.
It can be, and
Yeah.
it's good in recipes. It's good to cook and bake and stuff with, but a lot of people just don't. The American diet was like very milk heavy, and then all of a sudden, everybody either couldn't tolerate it anymore, or for health reasons quit drinking it, or whatever the
Yeah.
case is. So the money just wasn't there like it used to be. How is it, being a farm here in Marion County?
It is good. At least for our operation right now, we have access to have access to feed. We don't have a lot of room, which is a problem for grass-fed operations, but we have access to feed, and the Marion County population has grown, and it's grown in a in the number of people that have sufficient funds to buy specialty products. So our operation has done very well.
Yeah, no, I think that's true, and I also think more and more people want fresh food.
They want to know where their food's coming from.
Yes.
Yeah. And when they know that the food is coming from right here instead of, say, Mexico or Brazil,
Yes.
they come to here for the local grown free range beef.
Yeah, I mean, so I know the percentage of actual grass-fed beef that is sold in the store. I think like it's a very small portion that actually comes from the US.
I just know that there's a huge amount that comes from Brazil. I don't know the exact numbers. I know that a lot of it comes in through Miami, and because Florida's connected to Miami, we're in close range to all that.
Yes. It's kind of interesting and sad in a way because I mean, we do have a lot of space in a lot of ways to grow cattle, do things like that. Maybe not, I mean, even here in Florida, there's still a lot of land left.
Yeah,
It doesn't seem like it, but even I was driving, I was like really early. I ended up getting here faster than I thought I would. So I was like, so I drove past, right across the way and I was like, it's still, they're splitting up the lots and they are making,
yeah,
doing all of that, but and putting new homes on, which I thought was kind of interesting. I haven't seen
yeah.
that in a while. But I have a lot of customers who asked for, property or to be able to build a house on at least an acre or two. I think a lot of people moving from Miami or moving from, up north, they
New
just,
York,
yep, they don't
yeah.
want to be right on top of people anymore.
Yeah, the amount of people that we get for our beef and for compost that just said they moved into the area is phenomenal. Like at least once or twice a week we have people say we just moved into the area and we're looking for some good beef or like some compost. It's crazy how many people have moved in,
I know it.
especially since COVID.
I know it is crazy. It's because it's still relatively affordable. But the thing that's nice about Marion County, and hopefully that bill, I know there's a bill that's like threatening farmland and things like that. But Marion County itself, I don't know if you guys are in it, but they do have the protected farmland areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure. All I know is that we're farming on this land.
Yeah, I know part of it. There is like a protected sector through here in Anthony and Spar and all of that since
I
you're
know
out
that
here.
there's some down that way on the road, so
Yeah,
it's very possible.
I just don't know if you guys are in that sector or not, but I do know it is a thing, and I just hope we maintain that, like, want and care for the farmer, but, there's just not as much money in it as it used to be.
Progress always finds a way, no matter what that way is. So I'm not sure what that way is going to be. Whatever has the most money in it, really.
I know that's just kinda how it goes, just like, you guys went from being a dairy for a very long time to growing beef. I do think the specialty beef, I think that's a really cool thing that you guys are, like, doing, creating unique ways. I think farmers will always find a way to adapt to make money.
Very
I
true.
think farmers are very underestimated on their smarts, wit, ability to, navigate whatever the economic status is, whatever's going on and food trends or whatever the case is. I really do think farmers will figure out a way to make it work.
Yeah,
It's just
definitely.
it's just not may not always be ideal, let's put it that way.
Well, when it comes to farming, there's a lot of satisficing involved. So
Yes.
you have to get things good enough, and you have to live like that. And then sometimes things get really good, but it's just the way of life.
It's like a simple life. It's always exciting too, because dealing with a lot of animals, there's always something going on.
Definitely, there's always something.
It's always something. So you said you're third generation, right?
Third generation.
Now, do
Yep.
you think you'll keep with it? Is that your plan in life?
I am not sure if I'll keep with it.
Okay.
I really like it. I'm not sure if I'll keep with it in this area. I always want to be outside. Outside is a huge part of who I am, and I always like growing food. I'm just not sure if it'll always be a viable way of making a living. And also, there's a big world to explore out there. So
Okay.
staying on the same, what is it, 40 or 50 acres, maybe keep one home here and try out something else for a little while.
I get that. You're like wanting to have some type of adventure, and then a lot of people always end up coming back to Ocala later.
Sometimes. The thing is that land is so much right now. It's a really good opportunity if you want to try out farming in a different location. Go try it out in another location right now because right now land prices in this area are phenomenal.
No, it is true. It is. It's very expensive to buy property here in Marion County. If you want a lot of property, you've got to really. I mean, now if you go up north, it's relatively inexpensive and pretty. Not super. It's not very expensive. The more north you get, the closer you get to the Alabama Georgia line. It's pretty
Very true.
tends to be a little less expensive, which is good. And I know there's some regenerative farms up there too, and a lot of different things. I think we're gonna see a lot of growth in those like very small towns that are
Yeah.
kind of struggling with local farmers and things like that.
I think that the key is to live small, keep costs low. You have a lot more freedom.
Yeah.
That's what the fact of the matter is. With lower cost, you have more freedom. That can be applied to every facet of life, whether it is just living or running a business. Like it's just my dad, my mom, my uncle, and one worker that runs this farm of a few hundred cattle.
Yeah.
And by keeping it just to us, by having just me in the store running it, it keeps costs low and it gives us the freedom to do more of what we want to do.
Yeah, and be able to expand and, do all of these cool genetic projects that you have.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why we can have nice things.
Yeah, that's very true. I think it's super cool what you guys are doing with like genetic. A lot of times people get freaky about like genetic type stuff, but it's natural. It is what it is.
It's not genetically modified. It's all natural. It's just human interaction involved, or
Correct.
human involvement in human direction of the natural course.
Which, I mean, farmers have been doing that for centuries. I mean, many of the vegetables that we eat never looked the way that they did, and they only looked the way they did because some farmer, some person that was growing these vegetables decided they liked this specific feature, and so now they just kept breeding it to make it to look a certain way.
Yeah, choosing the favorable traits over the unfavorable ones.
And it's just like with Cornish crosses, which is like the chickens that everybody we eat. If you go to the store, it's what you're buying. You're buying a Cornish cross. People are like, they're genetically modified. They're this, they're that. Well, I mean, no, they were just selectively bred.
Yep.
And like a really mashed up combination. And I've raised them a couple times because they're very efficient for food. So if you're hungry and you want to grow meat quickly and a lot of it, it's the way to do it. But we used to call them Frankenstein monsters.
Yeah, aren't those the ones where they grow for, is it 4 weeks or something?
4 to 6 weeks.
Okay, so 6 weeks and then they can't move anymore because
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah, they will literally eat themselves into oblivion. Most literally. Like all they do is eat and sleep and poop, and that's it. They're definitely not. I don't know. Like to me, it is what it is, but because I mean they are animals, but I don't know. It's like a weird thing for me, like ethically, I guess, in a way too. But it's crazy. They're actually gotten them to live longer, but you have to like really cut the food.
Yeah.
So you just can't let them eat a ton, and you have to be very specific with that. But they've gotten them to reproduce. I don't know how they did it, but there's like a guy that's gotten
That's crazy.
It is crazy because they will literally die within 6 weeks. They'll have a heart attack and die. Like they won't live anymore. It's crazy.
That's farming. You'll always find a way to do something new and interesting or more efficient.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to, because if not, you're not going to survive and you won't make money.
Very true.
Because I mean, having animals is such a wild. It's like you roll the dice. You hope that every calf that is born is healthy, which in reality it doesn't work like that.
No, it does not. Sometimes they don't even know how to nurse.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then you're having to deal with that, and you're up all night feeding them like a baby, and it's just it's a lot to deal with. It's just not ever simple. So towards the end of my podcast, what I always ask the person that I'm interviewing is, if somebody is looking to do what you guys do, what would you tell them?
Okay, well, it goes back to what I was saying before about small.
Yeah.
Start small and keep overhead costs as low as possible, because by doing that, you have a lot more freedom to experiment, and you have a lot more freedom to live your life, because you've got to have your work and you've also got to have your life. Keep the overhead costs low. That's pretty much it. Efficiency.
Being efficient, finding a phase to be efficient. I think that's for anybody. I don't care what it is. I don't care what business you have. If you can't find efficiency and you can't, utilize your resources effectively to move to the next step, go the next step further.
There is another thing too, though, and it is to do new things. I'd say try new things, but do new things constantly, because that's how you figure out what's going to work. If you try out something and it doesn't work, you can always switch back, or you can try a completely new thing. So just because something changes doesn't mean that it can't change back, and it doesn't mean that it has to stay that changed way. You can always move to something else and see if that works. There's no reason to be afraid.
No, I think that's true. Don't be afraid of failure, and I think being unique can be a good thing. It just might come at a cost.
That is true, but the cost always is accompanied by learning. So failure is an opportunity to learn.
No, I think that's true. Well, I appreciate your time today. Is there anything that you want to share before we wrap up?
No, it's pretty fantastic weather day, and really, as far as I know, all the bovines are healthy right now, so it's a good day on the farm.
Farm. What are your hours here at your store?
At the store, we're open 9 to 11 a.m. on Saturdays.
Okay.
However, we also have appointments available. Like you can contact us by the phone number or email. We're usually here every day of the week except for Wednesday because that's my free day.
Okay.
Free day. But yeah, it, every day is excellent here. It's really any time for the appointment, any day.
Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate you having coming on here and sharing your story about your guys' farm. And I hope you guys check back next week for another great episode.